Managing Director, Gateway Distriparks Limited, Mr. Samvit Gupta, Joint Managing Director, Gateway Rail Freight Limited, Mr. Sachin Bhanushali, Director and CEO, Gateway Rail Freight Limited, Mr. Sandeep Kumar Shaw, CFO, Gateway Distriparks Limited, Mr. Manoj Singh, Senior Vice President, Gateway Distriparks Limited, Mr. Nandan Chopra, CFO and Company Secretary, Gateway Rail Freight Limited, Mr. Sunil Nair, Director and CEO, Snowman Logistics Limited, and Mr. A.M. Sundar, CFO, Snowman Logistics Limited. This conference call may contain forward-looking statements about the company which are based on the beliefs, opinions, and expectations of the company as on the date of this call. These statements are not the guarantees of future performance and involve risks and uncertainties that are difficult to predict. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star then 0 on your touchtone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Prem Kishan Gupta. Thank you, and over to you, Mr. Gupta.
Thank you. Good evening and a warm welcome to all the participants to the post-results earnings call of Gateway Group. I hope every one of you are safe and are taking all the precautionary measures considering second wave of COVID-19. We have uploaded our results, press release and presentation on stock exchanges as well as company website. I hope you had an opportunity to go through the same. Considering the state of the economy during the past financial year, which we have just closed, our performance was good. We have also utilized this period to strengthen our balance sheet and have reduced our net debt by rupees 236 crores to rupees 444 crores as compared to 681 crores in March 2020. The strengthening of balance sheet has enabled us to speed up our next round of capex and capitalize on the growth opportunities. With the inauguration of Rewari-Madar section of Western Dedicated Freight Corridor in January 2021, we have experienced an improvement in operating efficiency. The WDFC, which is the Western Dedicated Freight Corridor, can bring in for a leading integrated intermodal logistics facilitator like us, who has its ICDs strategically located to WDFC alignment. We expect that all the sections of the WDFC should be completed by end of calendar year 2021 or early 2022. We have also initiated a corporate structure reorganization during the year, which will help us bring in further operating synergies and efficiencies for the group. SEBI and stock exchanges approval have come in, and the NCLT proceedings have started. With the sustained improvement in performance for last few quarters, the cash flows are healthy, and the board of directors have approved rupees 5 per share as first interim dividend for financial year 22. Here I would like to add further, that during the last year we performed well in spite of the COVID related issues, and we have come out strongly from that, and we are now prepared to service the industry, through this second wave. And in April, the volumes are good enough. And going forward, we still have a visibility of both in export and import directions. So, barring, if something that does not, improve on the COVID situation, we are prepared with all our warehousing facilities, all our container yards and domestic containers, and both rail and road capabilities, and all of these activities come under essential services. So we are geared for servicing, even though this COVID situation in the last 2 weeks has reached a alarming situation. In Snowman Logistics, we have had good results, and the new e-commerce vertical of the company is growing very fast. Our new projects at Siliguri and Coimbatore are under construction, and capacity is being expanded at our current facilities of Mumbai and Krishnapatnam. We have plans to take our capacity to 200,000 pallets in the next 3 years, with a capex of roughly rupees 400 crores, which will be through fresh equity as well as internal accruals. With this, I will now open the floor for questions and answers session. Feel free to ask anything, and the entire management is there to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Atul Tiwari from Citigroup. Please go ahead.
Yes, thanks a lot, and congratulations on very good set of numbers. Sir, my question is on EBITDA per TEU. So especially in the rail business. So your EBITDA per TEUs have been very strong, almost now 10,000 rupees. So how should I think about these numbers? Is it the new normal, 10,000, or is there some kind of one-off efficiency gain, etc. there which can go back?
Sachin, you would like to take this question?
Yeah, I'm taking it. Hi, Atul. Good afternoon to you. Thank you. Very pertinent observation. Quickly, 2 things there is that the increase in EBITDA, improvement in EBITDA is primarily driven by the volumes of Q3, Q4, which have been very robust as compared to our previous average numbers. This is driven by both improvement in exports as well as increase in appetite for imports in India. It has also resulted into reduction in the imbalance between imports and exports. There is a limited window availability of a rebate which has been given by Indian Railways up to 30th April 2021, which includes 5% rebate on leaden rail haulage charges and 25% rebate on the empty wagons and empty container haulage charges, which has contributed in part to this. The primary dissection of this number would give you basically 3-level advantage: reduction in imbalance, increase in the double stack as a part of the total volume of business done, And third is operating leverage on account of higher volumes in quarter 3 and quarter 4, where the number has actually got concentrated. So a part of it is new normal, I think, and part of it needs to be discounted in view of withdrawal of the 5% and 25% rebate being given by Indian Railways on laden and empty haulage charges is likely to get withdrawn from 1st of May. Though we are trying very hard that in the interest of the health of the industry, this should continue for at least one more year up to end of the current fiscal. We are hopeful that we should be able to get the benefit extended at least by 6 months initially. But we'll know it only closer to the withdrawal date. And as of now, we cannot speculate on the basis of that. So if we look at the per TEU EBITDA number, I would suggest you to water it down a little bit in the event of this benefit having been withdrawn. So going forward, two things which are going to drive it is going to be total volume in a quarter or the entire year. And if we consider H2 as a new normal as far as import-export into India is concerned, wherein we have been able to increase our market share in NCR market by 11%. And we have actually ceded ground to competition in Ludhiana business where the margins were quite compressed. This has also resulted into improvement in per TEU margin. If this continues, and if we have a normal GDP projected growth, which at present may be seems a little questionable in view of the second wave of COVID numbers, then we should be able to maintain it, say, somewhere around 8,000 rupees per TEU going forward.
Okay, so if these rebates go away but the volume sustain, roughly the new number should be 8,000 in that.
That's right.
Okay, and so just the last one, did we book any SEIS income either in rail business or CFS business in FY21? And is something pending?
No, there is no SEIS income which has been booked during the current fiscal period.
Okay. But is some part pending to be received, or it is done and dusted and nothing will be received in either of the businesses going on?
So it's a little iffy as far as the rail business is concerned. Out of the window of 5 years, we have received it for 3 years. And after that, the issue whether we are entitled to it on rail transportation or not has been raised by the Office of Additional Director General Foreign Trade, which is being contested, and which we believe we are on the right side not only of the law, but we should be able to stake our claim rightfully to that money going forward, even if it means going by way of litigation. The balance 2 years the benefit would be considered only on the basis of actual receipt of the money, not on the basis of accrual. And we are quite in readiness as far as our applications are concerned. We are yet to file these applications. So 3 out of 5 years we have received, 2 out of these 5 years is still with a question mark on it. A part of that we are certain will get the CFS part, the SED part of it. The rail transportation part of it is SED.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot and congrats again on very strong set of numbers.
Thanks, Atul. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from Achal Lohade from JM Financial. Please go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity, sir, and congratulations for the great performance. My first question is with respect to volumes. In the opening remarks, Mr. Gupta indicated there is a better volume visibility now. So my question is, if this COVID wave could have an impact on the volume momentum, is there any risk to that? And number two, was there any impact with respect to Suez Canal issue, on the container volumes for the industry as well as us in the quarter gone by?
See, what has happened is, as far as Suez Canal is concerned, there were some ships which were rerouted and there were some ships which were held back. Now, slowly and gradually, they are arriving at the ports. So whether for CFS or the ICD, a little drop in the month of April will be compensated, or rather there will be more volumes in the month of May. the COVID situation, if it prolongs, then there is a reason for worry. But as of now, I mean, the visibility, the pipeline that we have in both in imports and exports is quite good. It will drop if the manufacturing activity goes down in India. So both export and imports will suffer, but I think whatever is ready is being exported, and whatever is in pipeline will arrive in India up to June. So from that point of view, this first quarter we can say for with great certainty that the volumes will be there. But if this lockdowns and the COVID situation escalates, then going forward it will be tough time for everyone, not for we as Gateway, but I mean the entire industry and the country will suffer on that account.
Highlight what has been the capacity utilization for Garhi Harsaru and Ludhiana and Faridabad terminal for FY21 as a whole?
So let's look at each terminal individually. Garhi Harsaru, we did 106,000 TEUs with a capacity of roughly, let's say, about 200,000 TEUs. So we are operating at about 52% of the terminal capacity. Ludhiana, we are operating at about 70. We did about 72,752 containers, 64 containers. So 72,750, let us say, where our average capacity, which is installed capacity as of now, would be of the order of about 150,000. So there also we are operating at about 50%. Faridabad terminal, we did 43,000 TEUs with a capacity of about 60,000 already established. So there we are, our utilization is slightly higher, 71%. On the whole, if we look at our rail transportation capacity, then we have operated roughly at about 90% of the capacity, because for a large part of quarter one and quarter two, we had to mothball our capacity by stabling our trains, because there was a sudden drop in exports initially, later on imports, and some kind of balancing took place in the quarter one first 3 months and quarter two the first month. So April, May, June, July we had surplus capacity. So that's why the rail capacity utilization across the year would be of the order of about 90%.
But post that it is closer to
Achal, Ishan here. Just want to add one point to what Sachin said, that our terminal capacity is in fact, in our control, in the sense that in order to have a good presence at these locations, one has to buy the land from before. So we invested with a view in mind that we'll only develop as and when the capacity goes up, because you cannot buy land in the future.
Correct.
So the capacity Sachin is mentioning is only the installed capacity. We have undeveloped land also. And the installed capacity, it's not capex intensive. It's only laying of paper blocks or building more warehouses. So we do that as and when we see the business growing. So especially with WDFC in mind, we are keeping a close watch that when those sections start and when our volumes will grow, that's the time when we'll further increase our installed capacity.
Understood.
For the terminal side.
That's helpful. Thank you so much, Ishan. My another question I had is, in terms of the market share, you talked about 11 percentage point improvement in market share. Just wanted to get, for the full year FY21, what has been the market share for each of the terminal or the pocket as you indicate usually, sir?
Hi. So in the interest of time, I will give you the gross numbers here. So Gateway Rail NCR volumes were 150,000 TEUs this year as compared to 135,000 TEUs last year.
Okay.
And so that is roughly 11% improvement in our NCR business. As far as the terminal-wise numbers are concerned, I'll give those to you offline after the conference.
Sure. That's helpful, sir. And just one last question on the DFC, clarification on that. So you mentioning that the entire stretch of DFC, which you mean JNPT, which will get connected by NCY21, or just the port, Gujarat-based port you were indicating, sir?
No, as of now, we are talking only about Rewari to Palanpur DFC. In fact, the dedicated freight corridor phase 3, which is from Vadodara to Navasheva, is not even being discussed because there are a lot of ifs and buts there as far as land acquisition and completion of that section is concerned. So what Mr. Gupta mentioned was essentially only Rewari to Palanpur.
And accordingly, the ports also get connected by then.
The port will be connected by only feeder routes. So the dedicated freight corridor capability of running 25-ton axle load at 100 kilometers per hour, if approved by RDSO, will be available only on the run between Rewari to Palanpur. Beyond Palanpur, it is old infrastructure, which is undergoing improvement track structure to bring the capacity to transport from 23-ton axle load to 25-ton axle load, which is going to take some time. Conversion of single line into double line across the entire section from Palanpur via Samkhali up to Mundra Port via Gandhidham, which is also underway, which may take another year. And electrification of that route, which is also likely to be over only by March 2022. So even if the dedicated freight corridor becomes fully operational, we will not have the advantage of operating on dedicated freight corridor on the entire stretch between Gadi Arsaru to Mundra Port. It will be available only between Gadi Arsaru to Palanpur.
Got it. This is helpful, sir. Thank you. All the best. I'll come back in the queue, please.
Thanks, Sachin.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Prateek Kumar from Antique Stock Broking. Please go ahead.
Hello. Yeah. Good evening, sir. My first question is, so just to discuss, like we said, April volumes were stable. Like we have mentioned in a press release that in both segments, CFS and rail, we did like record volumes. CFS at around 34,000 TEUs, rail is at around 26,000. So just to quantify, we should expect a similar number like in April, like a record number, and like an overall 1Q, we should remain stable. That's what we mentioned, right?
See, let us not take 1 month April, because one is this Suez Canal delays. So let us talk about the whole quarter. So for the first quarter, that is the current quarter, I mean, what we have received and what is in pipeline and the pendency at the ports for the ICDs. It's quite encouraging, and in the sense that irrespective of the COVID situation, these volumes will go out in case of exports and will come in as imports. Going forward, as I said in my opening remarks, that all depending on the running of the industries in India, and as well as because some of the industries are also dependent on the import component, not only for automobile, but many industries have use as raw material or consumables which are imported, and similarly the exports which the local industry suffers and does not manufacture for any reason. I mean, then only we can see some drop going forward. But this quarter seems to be okay.
Okay. Secondly, we have started running on a brief route, small route of DFC. So how is the operational efficiency different here versus like the normal routes? And in general, how is the rail speed changed this quarter versus the quarter 3?
Sorry, Prateek, your last question was not clear.
I was saying that firstly, we have started operating on a small route of DFC. How is the efficiency there versus a normal route, railway route, which we are running on? Secondly, how is the speed of train changed in Q4 versus Q3 in terms of overall operation?
Okay, Prateek, it needs to be taken with a little pinch of salt, because though the dedicated freight corridor was inaugurated on the 7th of January by running the Python formation of the Concor and the Gateway Rail train, all the traffic has not shifted to dedicated freight corridor yet, because a large amount of signal and telecom work, which is necessary for smooth operation of train services during daylight and night time, is yet to be completed even on the Ateli-Madar section. So as of now, there are only 4 pairs which are being operated in either direction only during daytime, and it is not all trains of a particular operator are getting operated on dedicated freight corridor. So from a speed of trains point of view, we haven't seen any improvement over Q1, Q2, Q3. The reason for that being Q1, Q2, Q3 also did not have a competition from the passenger services on the conventional network, wherein an average run time between Mundra Port and Gadi Arsaru had already come down from 66 hours to say about 40 hours. Currently we are operating somewhere around 44 to 48 hours of run time for Mundra Port and Pipavav Port respectively. This will continue until the Palanpur section gets commissioned, and Palanpur Rewari section in either direction is used for operating all trains. Only then the true benefit will start coming in. So I think it is still a few months away, and there isn't a great visibility as far as our interaction with the dedicated freight corridor authorities is concerned. Number one. Number two is that the picture has further got obfuscated on account of the COVID cases rising second time around, the second wave, resulting into practically all work on dedicated freight corridor having come to a stop currently.
But based on last incidence of guidance, December 21 looks best case for at least Palanpur to Rewari to Palanpur.
We are hopeful that by December, shifting of all business. So let's say from a declaring it open point of view, we may see an event which will result into inauguration of the Palanpur Madar section taking place. They already run train in one direction, whereas in the other direction the work is yet to be completed. So all that may happen. But once the for the entire traffic to be operated on the dedicated freight corridor between Rewari to Palanpur, I think we will have to wait until December 2021, if not March 2022.
And just one question on QIP of Snowman Logistics. Where are we in the process, and when are we expected to complete the fundraise?
So we have, some investors who are interested, but at the same time, due to the second wave and onset of COVID, there was a lot of fluctuation. So the process is taking longer. So we are still expecting to close this soon, and the amount that we are looking at is going to be around 200 to 250 crores. So like we mentioned earlier, our capex plan which we are going forward with is for a total of 400 crores for bringing our pallet capacity to 200,000 in the next 3 years. And that 400 crores will be partly funded by fresh equity, and the rest would be through our internal accruals itself, which we are very confident that the needs would be met. So the idea is to expand in locations where either we are not present or where our customers are, there's a strong pull coming from our customers to expand capacity. At the same time, we have started this dedicated warehouse business for creating fulfillment centers for e-commerce companies, namely Amazon, which is a very high margin business, and that can be scaled up quite quickly because we are leasing existing dry warehouses and converting them. And the third thing is that on the pharma side, we are seeing a lot of growth. So keeping COVID distribution aside, which we have started in a small way right now because major chunk is expected only in a couple of months when full private distribution and with imports starting at first, which are going to convert to domestic manufacturing later. But if you keep that aside also, other products in the pharma business have really picked up, and people are looking for the organized sector to transport various things like blood plasma, other different vaccines, APIs, bulk drugs, so all of that. So that is also part of the capex plan.
Thanks. Thanks. I'll get back.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Parimal Mithani from Credential Investments. Please go ahead.
So thanks for the opportunity. This is related to your Snowman Logistics. I just wanted to know, why is your transport vertical showing loss since last few quarters? And if you can explain why. And secondly, in terms of the vaccine distribution, currently, which states and cities are you, which states are distributing? If you can just throw us light on this. Hello?
Yeah. Sunil, can you take that, please?
Hi, this is Sunil here. I'll take this question. So, our transportation has been showing loss for last 1 year because of the increasing fuel cost, and we could not pass on everything to our customers. And also, with the restrictions that started from last March, lots of vehicles were not able to move because the overall movement of goods were restricted, other than the essentials. So in the month of April, May, June, almost 50% of the fleet were idle. So there has been a lot of downtime because of that. And that is the main reason why it is showing a negative result. But at EBITDA level, we have still maintained in last 2 quarters. And for the further expansions, we have now come up with a technology platform where we are aggregating the market vehicles from various small vendors and offering an end-to-end solution to our customers. So that is helping us a little bit of de-risking. At the same time, it is benefiting the customers as well as the vendors who, as of now, is not getting adequate business, and we are able to help them out. So that's for the transportation. I'm sorry, I forgot your second question.
The second question was in terms of the vaccine distribution for the COVID. Are you tied up with any agencies, or you are not yet in the process of it?
So as of now, vaccine distribution is happening in a very, very small volume.
Okay.
And as of now, there are only 2 vaccines which are being distributed, Covishield and Covaxin.
Okay.
And they are mostly going by air. So whatever to the airport and from the airport, there we are playing some roles. This is typically tie-ups with the state governments, and some movements within the state also is something which we have done. We hope that once this is made open as it is announced now, and once other brands also come in and start distributing in the country, there should be a lot of volume, and that's when we actually play a role in terms of storing and transporting, whether it is imported vaccines or it is something which is manufactured in India. So the bulk demand has to be there, and bulk supply has to be there for companies like us to play some role. And we hope that by mid of May there should be some such volume starting.
Any queries regarding that?
Queries?
Any queries currently on that vaccine front, sir?
So we are discussing with a lot of manufacturing companies, brands which are already there or wants to enter India basis the permissions and the pricing. So we have already developed 2 models. One model, if they manufacture in India, how the distribution should happen to every nook and corner of the country. And if they import to begin with, they would like to import, and by the time they organize the production, so how that should take place. So we are in advanced stage of discussion with some of them. Yes.
And sir, I just wanted, you have mentioned you're going to raise 250 odd crores. Previous gentleman did ask about that question, but it's mainly this 250 crores is towards the Snowman Logistics, if I understand correctly. And how do you plan to utilize this and going ahead, sir? Because I think it's you're sufficiently, in capacity wise, it's sufficiently covered, if I'm not mistaken, sir.
No, so see, we are present at 15 locations now, and in next few months we will be in 17 locations. Out of these, 10 locations are 100% utilized. And even to take care of the organic growth of our existing customers who are there in these 10 locations, we have to expand. So there has to be investment in terms of the capacity creation. Not only that, our top verticals like pharma, which is our focus as of now, and e-commerce are growing at the rate of 20-25% CAGR. And the other verticals like ice cream and QSR also is growing at 15% CAGR. So we have to create capacities to tap that business. And so that's what we are creating this fund for.
Okay, sir. So thanks for your answers. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ankur Periwal from Axis Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi sir. Thanks for the opportunity and congratulations for good set of numbers. So, few questions on the rail as well as on the CFS side. So, starting with the rail first. Obviously, margin expansion has been pretty encouraging. But just wanted your sense on the overall competitive intensity, given that Concor had already taken a sharp increase at TKD, and have we taken a parallel increase in our realization? Because if I look at our blended realization, this quarter broadly looks largely intact. And is there any volume-led benefit there because of this pricing differential?
Hi, Ankur. Thanks for your question and a very pertinent observation. The increase which has been taken by Concor is primarily driven by the increase in the land license fee that they are going to pay at the Tughlakabad terminal. Yeah. So I have nothing to say either in defense or otherwise of that. But the market largely has stayed away from similar increase in price because it is both not warranted as well as it is an opportunity to improve a competitive advantage in favor of the private operators. So we have seen largely unreacted space as far as this new additional levy is concerned. And as we mentioned in our remarks, the growth of 11.1% in NCR market is primarily driven by this advantage, while the NCR market itself has shrunk by 5% during this period. So we would like to keep that, and on a per TEU basis, our performance has been, I would say, reasonably shown not only reasonable improvement, but has shown stability across quarter two, quarter three, quarter four. So from a competitive intensity point of view, two observations. One is that we have seen some price action by Concor in NCR market. And at the same time, the overall numbers addressed by the intermodal industry, particularly in Punjab, North India, including NCR is concerned, since there has been there is a good demand, the surplus of supply over demand has not driven the prices down. So there is no more a great competition to reduce prices by giving more discount to customers. So that's where we stand as far as the competitive intensity is concerned. I hope that addresses what you had asked for.
Sure, sir. So if I got you right, no further increase in competitive intensity, especially in Ludhiana, and in NCR because of the pricing differential, there is a volume gain for us. But what will be the broad, let's say, apple-to-apple pricing differential now between, let's say, you and Concor? Maybe, TKD Mundra versus a Garhi Mundra?
Okay, so the differential primarily is in import direction, we would not compare export direction. Import direction, the differential does not actually get translated in the same, let's say, numbers as import freight charged by us to the shipping line or by container corporation to shipping line. Because what the customer ends up paying is what the shipping lines charge them by way of inland haulage charges, which is an all-inclusive price. And that's where all locations except Tughlakabad in NCR have always had a marginal to a greater advantage vis-a-vis Concor. But because Concor has been an old facility and it's easier to get cargo cleared through customs processes there, which are not as intense as other locations, Tughlakabad has been attracting a lot of cargo. So the competition is not plain price competition; it's beyond that, and that continues even after the increase of 5,000 rupees per TEU has been taken by Concor.
Okay. Okay, that's helpful, sir. Sir, second on the CFS side. Now, I'm referring the last 2 quarters, wherein the margins have probably more stabilized, and even from a volume perspective. So what's our thought there? Because historically we have seen the impact of DPD there on our volumes as well as realizations. In the first half, there was a benefit of higher dwell time there, because of which the margin sort of shot up. But now things are normalizing. Do we expect Q4 volumes as a base case volumes here, or probably it's still some time for a further volume growth here? And also, another question related to it is Punjab Conveyor. Any thoughts there? Because the facility will be coming up for renewal. So any thoughts on both volume as well as on the margins profile?
So somewhere, Q3 and Q4 would be a good base for volumes. March had exceptionally higher volumes, but slightly. But overall, we are looking at around, say, 30 to 32,000 per month in the CFS business. Margins, they have stabilized. I'd say it's about 2,900 to 3,000 per TU for our EBITDA. And that's an improvement over last year. This is mainly due to increase in, products like warehousing, value-added service, and last mile transportation is something that we're focusing on now. And also we're doing more focus on LCL cargo, which is higher revenue margin for us. On DPD, it has been at around 50% for the last few years now, and we don't see it growing further. And Punjab Conveyor you mentioned, so we're waiting for the tender from the government. So our current contract is till February 2022. But once the tender comes out, we will be participating in that.
Sure, that's helpful. And if I may squeeze in one more, just on the rail side, we had earlier plans of expanding into satellite terminals. But last FY21 has been largely a COVID impacted year, and now given our balance sheet also is in a good condition, as well as the overall profitability etc. improvement is also there across the board. Any thoughts there on any timelines which you'd like to share? Thank you.
We would request the participants to please stay connected as the line for Mr. Gupta got disconnected. So you can go ahead, please.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. So we were saying that in the rail business, that is the area where we want to expand and where we have in mind to, along the western dedicated corridor, have satellite terminals which feed into our existing network, which will give us a competitive advantage as compared to people with, without the hub and spoke, where they'll have to service the ports directly from those locations. So currently what we estimate, we have a plan of roughly 200 crores in the current financial year for investing into expanding into the NCR region. And going ahead, we'll plan based on the final national logistics policy, which is expected anytime. The drafts were already circulated. And based on that policy, we will, strategize and then choose our next locations and accordingly figure out how much capex we need to do.
Sure. Just one clarification on this. You mentioned 200 crores FY22. This will be for 2 satellite terminals which will be connecting to NCR. Will that be right understanding?
No, Ankur, just to make clear, see, we are waiting for the national logistics policy. And in the meantime, there are some acquisition opportunities. So we are looking at some acquisition this year, which will be in the range of, say, 175 or 150 to 200 crores. And then, depending on the national policy, national logistics policy, we will decide on the location, because there are some concerns on the, opening up of new ICD locations, which we have taken up with the government, and so when it comes in the final shape, then only we can decide on the location.
Okay. That's helpful, Mr. Gupta. Thank you and all the best. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Nitin Shakdher from Green Capital Single Family Office. Please go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. My question pertains to transportation services in relation to vaccine and plasma. Now, you mentioned before in a snapshot, I'd just like to delve deeper into it. Is the tie-up only related to Bharat Biotech and Covaxin distribution, or is it also related to Covishield and Serum Institute tie-ups? And my second part is this also going to be that the company will look at opportunities like oxygen concentrators and distribution of that through logistics? If you could just talk a little bit more about the vaccine rollout and the demand uptick on that.
Yep. So, hi Nitin, Ishan here. Firstly, I would just like to point out that unfortunately we won't be in a position to give you all the information because we have certain confidentiality agreements which we have to adhere by with the manufacturers and the government. But we'll share with you what we can at this stage. So currently we are working with both the government and the manufacturers. In some instances, for example, Tamil Nadu and Punjab, it is through the state government, and there we are doing distribution of whichever vaccine they want us to distribute. Apart from that, we have tied up with all the manufacturers, whether it's domestic or imported. We are in advanced stages of talks with many of them, and we already do business with many of them for other products. Now, there'll be two aspects to this. One is the current domestic distribution. So there we are doing from the airport and to the airport for multiple cities. For example, in Delhi we are doing it, or Chandigarh, Calcutta, a few others. Then on top of that, there will be now an import requirement where combined with, between Gateway and Snowman, we can give end-to-end solutions, and that's what we are discussing with the manufacturers. Most of them have long-term plans of manufacturing in India, either at their own plant or through a partner plant. But until they do that, they will be importing something. So we'll be handling, end-to-end from the import arrival to the distribution to the end center. I hope that answers.
Yeah, that's helpful. My second question was, I could have missed this out, but post-January, at least on the exchange intimations, I could not see anything on the buyback after the scrutinizer's ballot. Is there anything that I'm missing out, and where are we exactly on that process? And if you could just highlight that, because I seem to have lost the track on that after January.
There's no buyback in any of our group companies.
Okay, wasn't one on Snowman Logistics announced?
There was a QIP which we are under the process of, but there's no buyback.
Okay. Thanks for the clarification. Thank you. All the best.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Krupashankar NJ from Spark Capital. Please go ahead.
Hello, and thank you for the opportunity. Most of my questions have been answered. I just had one question on the DFC part. Just wanted to understand if the DFC connectivity to the Pipavav port is estimated to be earlier than the Mundra connectivity?
2021, no? We can't use the ratio for 21-22.
There's a lot of disturbance. Sandeep, I think you need to put your mic on mute. Yeah,
I have muted the line.
Yeah. So the connectivity is not going to be port specific. It's like a bypass surgery only between Rewari and Palanpur, whereas the conventional track beyond Palanpur, when it goes to Viramgam, when it goes to Pipavav, it is Palanpur, Viramgam, Surendranagar into Pipavav port. Continues to be the same. Part of it is double line, part of it is single line. Will get converted into electric traction
but will never probably be upgraded to 25-ton axle load because the kind of volume that is carried on that route does not warrant that kind of additional investment. The branching takes place at Palanpur. The Mundra Port route also includes partly double stack, partly single stack existing diesel route, which is getting converted into entirely double line up to Gandhidham with electrification, which is going to take about a year or so. So it is not correct to say whether any port will get the dedicated freight corridor connectivity first or later. All the trains which are going to run to Mundra Port and Pipavav Port from NCR will be operated on dedicated freight corridor in both the directions once it is commissioned fully between Rewari and Palanpur. Does that clarify?
Yes, sir, but there's one thing which I wanted to get clarified was that I think in the previous conference call it was mentioned that the infrastructure upgrade which is happening on the Palanpur to Pipavav is happening faster than the Palanpur to Mundra section, which is why perhaps the commissioning to the Pipavav port might be faster. Does it hold true right now also?
Okay, so probably I have not been able to express myself completely in our earlier call. The quantum of conversion of single line into double line is much less because the entire section is not going to get converted into double line on the Pipavav route, whereas in case of Mundra route, the work which is required to be done of converting single line into double line is much higher, number one. Number two is that electrification of Pipavav route is almost complete, whereas electrification of Mundra route is not yet complete. And the upgradation part is likely to take place only on Mundra Port. And that is the reason why Mundra Port complete upgradation to the feeder route level, matching that of dedicated freight corridor, is going to take longer. But that is not going to result into any impediment of operating the double stack train on the current platform of modified DLC wagons with carrying capacity of up to 68 tons will continue to be unhampered even without the dedicated freight corridor.
Right. That's very helpful, sir.
Thank you.
My second question was on the CAPEX side. You did mention about the 200 crore for the satellite terminal. Can we expect any additional maintenance CAPEX or any other CAPEX in the CFS side?
Hello. Yeah. On the CFS side, we don't really need much maintenance CAPEX, maybe just some replacement of vehicles, but that could be under 5 crores, the total CAPEX for the next year.
Right. And on the rail side, any maintenance CAPEX would be required?
Again, not too much except for replacement of vehicles, but there it's slightly larger. So maybe around 20-30 crores, including vehicles plus some yard work.
And a few warehousing facilities.
Right. Yeah. Sorry.
Right. So our plan to return rates based on the operating efficiencies which is generated on the DFC still holds true on a staggered manner. Is the plan still on, sir?
Yeah, actually, it is not just our plan to return the lease trains. So we have 8 trains taken from GATX, 2 trains taken from TUAX, and starting year 2021, end of 2021 calendar, we will be able to return 1 train. The plan was to replace existing BLC trains with the BLCS platform, which is a 100-ton gross weight wagon, which is 25-ton axle load, which will increase our carrying capacity, payload capacity from existing 68-ton limit to 75-ton, which will again help us in taking more 40-feet container on top of 20-feet container, improving the concentration of savings of rail haulage charges. But as of now, the BLCS wagon is not yet available. A few rakes have been bought by some operators. Those were not commissioned for a period of 6 months. On the 14th of this month, 1 train has been operated, but it is being operated at a reduced carrying capacity. Instead of 25, it is being carried at 23 tons, which is more or less similar to the 22.9 tons which is carried on modified BLC wagon, and is operated at 65 kilometers per hour, which is much less than 100 kilometers per hour, which is the modified BLC speed. So at present, we don't have any plan of inducting any BLCS wagon in lieu of our modified BLC wagon by way of exchange, the reduction in capacity would also start when over a period of time it gets established that the dedicated freight corridor operations are stabilized, and therefore our existing fleet of 31 trains can either do more, or to do our existing level of volume, we need lesser number of trains. So we'll have to wait and see. Probably we may return 1 or 2 trains, but we will make up our mind in terms of timelines, both in terms of reduction of the fleet size as well as replacement of modified DLC with BLCS wagon rakes, only on the basis of our actual experience. More playing it by the new year rather than planning it in advance.
Very helpful. Thanks a lot and all the best, sir.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Vishal Jaju from Tycoon Mindset. Please go ahead.
Hello. Hello, sir. My question is for the Snowman Logistics. Mr. Sunil, I just want to get to know how are you looking at the profitability of the business for the near future? Because since the last 4-5 years, we are EBITDA positive, but coming on to the net profit level, the debt and in bit of depreciation is taking us to the negative profits or sort of negative loss. So how are you looking to improve this side of the business? Like how are you planning to improve this debt part and the profitability part of the business?
Yeah. See, when it comes to debt part, we have only our net debt is 40 crores.
Okay.
And the 70 crore debt that we had taken for the expansion for last year, out of that we have only availed 50% so far. So debt-wise, I think we are fine. When it comes to the profitability, yes, there has been a stress primarily because of last 1 year's COVID, and even prior to that there were issues in seafood industry. But with the changes in the business model that we talked about in the earlier questions, where our focus is more on e-commerce, where typically the capex involvement is less and there is a lot of value add activities, and hence our value proposition to the customer is much better, and so is our profitability. So one, de-risking from the regular model and moving into this new thing is something which is helping us. And in case of transportation, which actually pulls down the profitability of the company, we have now started adding a lot of leased vehicles where the overall risk of fleet management is not on us. We are responsible for the business generation, but not the fleet management. And that has helped us a little bit of de-risking further. And that has an assured profit in that business, where the technology platform gives transparency to the vendor as well as to the customers, and we are there in between managing the overall transaction. So that is number 2. And the overall pharma vertical, which has a better profitability as compared to some of the other sectors, that is the third thing that we are doing. So we realize that 3-4 years, sticking to that model won't work, and these are the new things that we are doing. As far as short term is concerned, it's very difficult to commit anything depending on the situation today.
Yes.
But our initiative
on a longer note, with this current situation, are we expecting more growth to be coming from that e-commerce side, that tab with Amazon and all? And sir, are we getting both warehousing and transportation, both facilities from the Amazon side? And what are the profitability margins you are expecting for the transportation side? Because our transportation usually gets in losses. So from the e-commerce side, do we expect that our transportation margins will also be improved, or only it will be majorly from the warehouse side?
So in the e-commerce side, our responsibility is only to reach it to the hub. We don't go and deliver at home. So with that thing in mind, our warehousing portion is considerably higher than the transport portion. So it should be 80-20 ratio. And the transportation pricing is quite clean there, and it is completely transparent with respect to fluctuating fuel price. So there is a positive margin there.
So there will be we will see a reduction in volatility of that margin side in transportation as well, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay. And so one part from the COVID as well. So sir, are we getting currently more traction in the warehousing side or on the transportation side? Like, if you can just give the clarity, not exactly number side, but if you can just give the clarity, are we getting more on warehousing side or on the transportation side? And in the future, because the volume has not been increased of COVID as of now. So in future, are we eyeing more for the warehousing side or on the transportation front?
So see, since it has to reach the nook and corner of the country, both are very important. But when it comes to overall revenue mix or the demand mix, usually transportation will be higher because this is a high velocity product. It won't stay in the warehouse for long, and hence the transportation requirements are higher as compared to.
As of now, are we seeing over in profit for transportation side? Are we going in profit, or there is like a bit of a profit and loss both going on the same side as per the state to state?
You're talking about COVID vaccine?
Yes, for vaccines and for vaccines.
So we have done very, very small volume because everything is moving by air and they are very small, 10, 12, 15 boxes. So I don't think we can consider that as a profit or loss model. It's quite negligible volume. So once it starts moving by road, then we can assess that.
And so one data point, if you can give, like currently our e-commerce, what are our e-commerce revenue share out of the total revenue? E-commerce.
So with our run rate, it is at 6% now.
And in future, what are we expecting for the next 3 to 5 years?
12% this year.
Okay. And in future, over longer period, are you expecting the share to go at around 20 to 30% in next 3 to 5 years?
We expect it to go to 15 to 18% because we will be expanding on other portions also. So percentage-wise, it may remain at 15, but in terms of the absolute number, it will grow 100% year on year.
Okay. That's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Vipul Shah from Sumangal Investment. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Congratulations for good set of numbers. I would like to have your views on the debt trajectory of the consolidated entity over next 2-3 years. Also, we are generating reasonably good cash flows. So, will it be used to pare down the debt, or as was mentioned, any acquisitions are planned?
See, as of now, I mean, if you look at the next 2-3 years, most of our debt will be paid, except for the long-term, term loans for projects. And as when we acquire something or we build something new, we will take on those long-term loans. So these will be standard loans from the banks and not, something like NCDs which we raised for the acquisition of Blackstone shares.
So if you talk about the NCDs, we have a very comfortable repayment schedule now. But even that we are planning to prepay when we can. If you've seen even in our track record from the 550 crores that we raised of NCDs, except for 20 crores which we paid on April 7th of this year on the due date, the rest of it we have prepaid quite in advance. And similarly, going ahead, we want to pare down this debt because it's a higher cost compared to regular bank loans. On projects, we'll continue to take bank debt whenever we can because those are at attractive rates and those will be well within our capability of servicing debt.
How much NCDs are outstanding, sir, and what are the interest rate they carry?
280 crores is outstanding out of 550.
280?
Interest rate of 280.
280 at the interest rate of?
11.5.
Oh, okay.
With a repayment schedule of 50 crores per year from next year.
But you have the option to prepay if we get the cash flow?
Yeah, we will have some options to prepay next year, not this year. This year we try to prepay, but the NCD holders did not agree. So that's why there was cash surplus in the company, and we have declared the dividend of 5 rupees today.
Our philosophy has always been to be very conservative on the debt side. And the reason why we took these NCDs was for gaining 100% or close to 100% of our Gateway Rail subsidiary. And the benefits of that you can see from this year's results onwards. So we feel that we bought the shares at a good valuation. And going ahead, the only debt which we'll be taking is for expansion and project loans. So we'll always be very comfortable on the debt side.
Okay, sir. Thank you and all the best for the future.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Pranav from iWealth Management. Please go ahead.
Hello. Hello, am I audible?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. Hi. I just had two questions. First being, earlier in the call you were telling us that regarding the EBITDA per TU, you said that most of it is sustainable. So how much of it would be affected because of the haulage charges, and what could be taken as a sustainable number?
If you refer to my earlier answer, I had said that 8,000 rupees is a steady state new normal that we can consider, considering that the volume of business will continue to be at the quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4 levels. And the component of leaden haulage charges rebate of 5% is roughly of the order of about 500 rupees per TEU. So that's something which we are expecting will get extended from 1st of May onwards, at least for a period of 6 months, if not for a year, and we're working hard towards that. But if that doesn't happen, then there will be a pairing of the reduction of EBITDA margin by that amount. But the other components primarily come from higher volumes resulting into operating leverage as well as improved balance situation, trade balance situation, into reduced unit cost of underframe running.
Okay, so you're saying that the current 10,000 would come down to 8,000 if the haulage charges reduce, if the haulage charges are not going as of what they're going as of now.
Yeah, so I'm talking about on an annualized basis. If you look at the annualized number, is not 10,000. Annualized number is what one needs to keep in mind. So the new normal for the annualized number can be considered to be about 8,000 rupees.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So just one last question would be on the tax side, sir. We've been paying lower tax for the last 2 quarters. So what is the reason and how would we look at it?
Nandan, would you like to take it?
So this is mainly because of the ATIA benefit available to the company. So presently we are being charged at the MAT rate, and that MAT is carried over to, basically MAT can be carried over to 15 years, and after that ATIA period is over, this MAT credit will be offsetted against the normal payment of the tax.
Okay, so sir, what would be the tax rate that we are being charged?
So the MAT is chargeable at 7.5%, but that MAT is carried over to the subsequent years to be offsetted when the normal rate of tax will come into picture.
Okay. So for the whole year would be around 7.5%. Is that what you're trying? Is my understanding right?
No, 17.5. 17.5.
Okay, sorry, 17.5. So that would be the full year.
We have another 8 years left of this ATIA benefit. And then after that, the MAT credit can be utilized.
So this 17.5 would continue for the next 8 years?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. We take the last question from Preet Nagar Sheth from Wealth Finance Advisors. Please go ahead.
Right. Just wanted to better understand the kind of impact that's there on the ground in terms of road versus rail. So I think there has been a shift in some business from road to rail. So if you can share some color on how that's playing out and how that could accelerate, once the DFCs are in place.
It's a little complex subject. So as far as road versus rail business is concerned, the classical distinction is road to CFS and rail to ICD business is the vertical split of the intermodal business which arrives at the port is concerned. This is done normally in the import direction. Export direction also, there is an element of cargo which goes either in containers or in trucks, all the way from northern hinterland into the port side CFSs by road, and gets converted into containers only in the port side CFSs. Over such a longer distance, there is always a market play which creates an advantage in favor of a particular movement being undertaken by road. For instance, rice exports and yarn exports taking place from lower Punjab area, southern Punjab area into Mundra port have always been going by road on account of shorter transit time, lighter weight, as well as imbalance in the transport movement between Gujarat and Punjab. The movement from Gujarat to Punjab is heavier as compared to Punjab to Gujarat has been lighter, and that is why at marginal cost many road operators carry this business. Second lever which operates is the shipping lines' willingness to bring this cargo in intermodal condition, that means in containerized condition, into the hinterland ICD. They bring only as much imports into the hinterland as can be evacuated by them by way of export, so as to improve their earning per TEU as well as reduce their turnaround time. So these two things play an important role, but it creates confidence in the minds of both importer as well as shipping lines if the transit times reduce and transit times settle at a certain level. So service level assurance is something which plays an important role here, and that is what is going to be brought in by the dedicated freight corridor. So earlier there used to be a time duration of up to 72 hours without there being any reliability of service. So the maxima in case of transportation of containers by rail from Mundra port or Pipavav port into northern hinterland has sometimes been of the order of 220 hours, which is almost like 9 days. This uncertainty will go down on account of capacity generated by dedicated freight corridor, and once that kind of confidence sets in, both the turnaround time will also come down as well as unit cost of service also will come down, and because of that the likelihood of large number of business being handled in CFSs in Mundra port and Pipavav port area, particularly Mundra port area, is likely to shift into hinterland as ICD business, and that's where the double-digit growth of the rail transportation business between West Coast port is expected once the dedicated freight corridor from Rewari to Palanpur is fully commissioned in both directions.
Okay, got you. No, thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. That was the last question for today. Participants who have missed out due to time constraints, they can reach out to the management and SGA. On behalf of Gateway Distriparks Limited, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.